Maybe it took a while.
I know, right?
I was like, not both our internet's being really ridiculous.
See? And I caught myself taking the easy way out this time.
Uh, well, hell, it says we're live. Hello, everybody. How are you today? I have my lovely, lovely co-host, Shay, over at Shay
Hey,
with the Hobbies.
hey, everybody. Still got internet issues, but hopefully by at the latest next Tuesday, everything will be back to normal and y'all will get to see me on my channel again. It's been a while.
Yay. Hi, Emma Ray.
Hey,
All,
love.
alrighty. So this week we were talking about the city in the sea through Eulalie. Yeah, I think that's how you say that. Yeah, very rude.
It's been awful. Awful, awful, awful.
Hi, Alicia. So we got a couple of fun poems to talk about because I do the research and I was like, what's fun about these poems? What's some interesting little tidbits? Because this is not only reading poetry and classic. This is like it's like history. It's like the times, like
Right.
what's going, like a lot of things, like especially I feel like in poetry, um, things that are happening in the author, in the poet, are reflected in their work. So it's really interesting to find out what was going on at that time, what influenced the poem. So that's a lot of fun. Hi, Heather. I'm here. So your secret is safe with me. Hello, hello.
Hello.
So I always find that to be really, really fun, is just to find out like what was going on at the time and like who the poem was for, if it was written for a certain person, but that's always
Uh,
fun. Okay. So we do have questions. We're going to start with the question that we always have is, what was your favorite poem of the week?
okay, so I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if I have a favorite poem this week because this week I felt like everything was going over my head. Like I felt
Mhm.
like I was thinking that it would be about one thing, but like my gut was telling me you're missing the like subtext here. You're missing the double entendre or however you say that word. But if
Right,
I
right.
were going, huh?
Right, yeah. I'm agree with
If
you.
I was gonna say one that I really liked, I really did like him.
Yes. I
I
liked
thought that
him.
was a really, really pretty poem.
Mhm.
And then um, what is this last one? The Haunted Place. I thought that
Yes.
was a really pretty poem as well.
Mhm.
Um, but the other ones, there were others that really intrigued me
Mhm.
because I just felt like I was missing something. But as far as like if I had to pick favorites, it would either be him or what is that one I just read? The Haunted Place.
The
I don't know
Haunted
why I
Palace.
can't.
Yeah.
My memory is shot today, y'all. I don't know what's going on.
You're good. These poems definitely will benefit from a reread. Yeah, there was one poem I was telling Cachet before we went live that I had to reread 3 times because I was like, I'm not getting this.
Right.
But
No,
yeah,
I definitely think that whoever put the collection together, they eased you in
for sure.
because I was feeling like, oh, I am getting things in these other ones. And then I got here and I was like,
Yeah.
no,
Led
maybe I'm not.
led led you into a false sense of security for sure.
Right.
It started off easy. Yeah. One of my favorite poems, definitely The Haunted Palace for sure. I really, really liked that one. I really liked the first one, The City in the Sea. I really enjoyed that one.
I think that was a
Um,
good too.
so good. Honestly, it started off like, okay, this is kind of very mysterious, what's going on, and it's almost like it was like almost like gothic fiction where everything was kind of like, um I'm trying to think of words, but definitely it was just revolving around sin, death, destruction, and how
Right.
this is Death City. It's like it's not, it's not anything. It's not like a person's city. It's death. It's could be
Right.
you know, the afterlife, or it could be like an alternate reality kind of thing. But it's just talking about how no matter how beautiful it is, no matter how you know, inspiring or beautiful it is, this city is doomed to sink due to either sin, corruption, you know, the things that are happening. I did feel more like religious tones in a few of these poems this week,
Yes,
for sure.
definitely,
Yeah.
definitely in these.
Hmm.
And I thought it was interesting how he like ended it with like, and then hell will rise, like kind of like that line. I was like,
Hmm.
okay. It
Yep.
felt very like Sodom and Gomorrah-esque, like destruction, like
Yes.
it's not a good place. There's nothing good here type of deal. And
Hmm.
so I definitely got like religious undertones and everything in a lot more of the poems this week.
For sure. Yeah. So it's like I really liked, yes, like hell rising from 1,000 thrones shall do it reverence. So like even hell is like, this place is great. You know?
Right. Like, let me bow down to you. Wait a minute.
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
have
Like, oh,
questions.
yeah. So yeah, I really liked that one because it definitely it was more sinister in, you know, the undertone for sure, as opposed to like spooky. It was definitely more sinister. Like this is
Yeah,
your
for
fate,
sure.
you know, kind of thing. Like, ooh.
I completely agree with that.
But yeah, the hello, cool gamer, how are you?
Hey.
So yeah, I definitely really enjoyed those two. So if everybody in the comments, if you didn't read any, if you didn't read the poems, it's totally okay. But if you did, let us know which one was your favorite. I really liked him too. I felt like a really kind of personal connection to him just because it was talking about how like in all things the speaker like felt peace and, you know, prosperity and like through prayer. And I was like, I really enjoy that because, you know, I feel like sometimes all you can do, like things are headed downhill for you, sometimes all I can do is pray, and that makes me feel a lot better. So I'm like, you know what, that's
I
true.
completely agree. And I think it's interesting because like as I would like when I was thinking about it, I was thinking about how like how so often even the songs we sing for worship can be prayers. And so
Hmm.
I thought that was very like interesting to title it hymn,
Hmm.
but it to be about like the piece of prayer that like you get. I just thought that was just an interesting title and thing in that. And so it made me think of just that about especially like even from a biblical sense, you like praise and worship before you pray because that's
Hmm.
like you're giving thanks before you begin to ask for
Ask.
anything, right?
Right.
And so
Hmm.
I don't know, I just there was a lot, like I said, there was a lot of like religious undertone this time, and I
Hmm.
definitely felt that with him. But
Yeah.
and I felt that it was beautiful. Like I felt like I was like, wow, this is a really beautiful poem as I
Hmm.
was reading it, and I liked having that feeling.
Yeah. I enjoyed it a lot too. There was another one. Um, uh, yeah, there was another one where it was maybe it was that one. Looking at my notes, no, my notes. Sorry.
Sure.
Yeah, I think it was that one. I think it was that one that I felt like the most of for the religious undertones for sure. I didn't read any. I just, well, thank you. I
Oh,
appreciate you.
thanks.
Alicia really likes City in the Sea. Yeah,
It
I
was
really.
good. It was really good.
Mhm.
Like, I definitely have no complaints about that
Mhm. So, oh, I have one more. I'm also not reading, just watching.
one. No
Thanks,
worries.
Heather.
Thank y'all. I appreciate y'all being so supportive.
I know. Thank
Y'all are
you.
so awesome.
Next question here is through because we're in week 3, so we've read a
Um,
lot. You know, we at the end of, you know, today we have read 48 poems. And what I've and really anybody, if you know, I know like a lot of people haven't, you know, read all of the poems or stuck with us, but what do you like most about prose writing, if you know, remembering either from school or readings that you've done in the past, anything like that? Like, what do you like most about prose writing?
So even just like without thinking about the short stories, I know just thinking about what we've read in the past 3 weeks, this man was a master of imagery. Like, no matter how many words you give him, he
Mhm.
can paint a very vivid picture. And
Yes.
I am so amazed by that.
Yeah.
I think like it's really truly what I want to be able to do as a writer.
Mhm.
Like it is definitely cementing to me why I understand why he's considered such a great writer, why he's like, in the classics section and people teach him. I still stand by that classics should be an elective and not the thing. But I do think
Mhm.
that if you are going to major or go to school, anything that had to do with writing, I could totally see why he would be like a course you would have to take
Mhm.
because he is masterful with it.
Mhm.
Like,
Yes.
I'm learning so much about the way to construct images from reading these that I
Mhm.
did not expect. Like, I expected to enjoy what I was reading. I did not expect to learn anything until I got to the short stories, if I'm being honest. Like, I
Yeah.
didn't expect to learn. I didn't expect for his work to, it's for me to read his work as a challenge.
Yeah.
Like, you need to be able to do this. You
Mhm.
need to be able to understand the language in this way. You need to be able to understand or be able to evoke the pictures that this man is evoking. Like, not copy him, but learn, like, study this art form. And
Mhm.
I feel like those are all things that completely surprised me. And and it's just imagery. Like,
Yeah.
it's just, he just does it so well. So well. So yeah, that's what I like most. I feel like I said a lot, but okay. There we go. That was
Keep talking, please. I love it. But I 100% agree. Like it is, like you said, it's art. It is truly an art form. The way he uses words to paint this masterful picture. And you said something about it doesn't matter how many words he uses. It could be the shortest sonnet, or it can be the longest poem. At 42 or however many lines that longest one was. You definitely see it in your head. And I just go back to the city and the sea. It's like that was probably the most um or maybe it's just with me because it was the first poem that I read for today. But it was just the sinister vibes that you get, and how the like you were there in the city. You like tasted the salt in the air from the sea, and as it was
right.
rising, as the sea was rising and the city was sinking into the water, like you did feel a sense of impending doom, and you felt that, like, I talked about this last week, like you feel it on the back of your neck, the hairs
Right.
rising, and I did feel like a sense of doom as the story progressed, you know and the city starts sinking in that last stanza. Like, ooh, I was feeling it. It's like, y'all got to get out of there. But for sure, I totally, totally agree with you.
No,
The
the
imagery.
same with the haunted palace. Like,
Yeah.
you are in this beautiful, beautiful place. And
Yes.
he will not let you forget how freaking beautiful this place
Hmm.
is
Yeah.
before he destroys your image of beauty by the end of it.
Yeah. Hmm.
Like, dude, the line, a hideous throng rush out forever and laugh, but smile no more. Like, to me, there's so much in that.
Hmm.
Like, smiling and laughing to me are two very different things,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Like,
Hmm.
you can laugh at things that really aren't funny to you,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
You can and so like I just just the ending. I don't girl, he just be doing stuff and I just be like, I see why you got the respect you got. Like I
Hmm.
and it's interesting because I know you didn't get it while you were alive.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. He didn't get like the fame, and
Right.
the respect, on that. He's really like he created this whole genre. Like he really did. Like no one does it like he does, for
Right.
sure.
For sure.
Alicia here answered as well. You feel like you're in the story, whatever story that he's telling, either poetry or short story. Yeah, you're
Right.
there. You're
You
there.
go there in that place.
Hi, Pat. Thank you
Hey
so much.
Queen.
Thank
So
you.
good to see you.
Another thing that I really loved about the Haunted Palace is that this is another one that I had to read a few times, and it helps when you get like when you do, some, research and you get an analysis, but it was really that the haunted palace is actually a person's like thoughts, like their head. Like
Okay.
it's an actual head. Because you'll see here in the first stanza here, um it says, once a fair and stately palace, radiant palace, reared its head in the monarch's thought's dominion. Thought is capitalized. So it's like things like that you have to see like things like that happen. He does that for a reason. It's because
Right.
like the haunted palace is a person's head, and your thoughts are what is having dominion in your palace, basically is in your head.
I love it.
And so like what's really nice about this is just that it really just paints a picture about what's happening to a person like in their head when depression sets in. Like this is like how it can be like a
Right.
physical thing, even though it's just in your head and you're feeling it, but it's like it affects you physically as well.
For
So
sure.
and I just like that's really amazing to me. And it even it's what stanza is this? One, two, three, fourth stanza, the first line. But evil things in robes of sorrow assailed the monarch's high estate. So when like things like sadness or depression just attack you and your thoughts, that's how it just affects you.
Right. I
And I
love
thought
it.
I thought that was
Now I
pretty
want to go
amazing.
back and reread it with that in mind.
Yeah, I just thought that was amazing. Like at first as you're reading this, like you were saying, like like when he first starts out, it's telling you how beautiful this palace is, like how
Right.
grand and but and almost peaceful, like peaceful, how your
Right.
thoughts can be peaceful. But then something happens that kind of causes that shift, and that's at that fourth stanza where evil things and robes of sorrow
Right.
assailed to the monarch's high estate. So the monarch being thought. So, like, it's just kind of like how it shifts like that. It's like,
Right.
oh,
Something
it just
takes over,
yeah,
something changes the atmosphere.
mhm,
And
and I
no
just
matter
like
how beautiful your mind is, in the
mhm,
moment that this thing takes over, that's what has control at that point.
mhm,
I like it. Like I didn't see it that way, and like no, like even thinking about how it ends,
yeah,
like you'll laugh, but you're not smiling because it's
yeah,
taken. Oh,
yeah.
okay, girl. I love it.
It
I
just
love
makes that last line just
that
hit.
last line hits it like it already was like, ooh, this is a line, but like, ooh,
Yeah, when you
I
have
can
that
read.
kind of mindset about how, like, this is the haunted palace is your head and your thoughts are being turned by depression, it makes that last line, "A hideous throng rush out forever and laugh, but smile no more."
But smile
Like,
no more.
how many people do that? It's like when you're feeling so sad on the inside, but you have to put on a brave face, like you're trying to make it seem like nothing is going on, nothing's
Right,
wrong with you, and you laugh and you pretend that you're happy, but you're not happy. So with that like kind of mindset, like that last line is really like, ooh, like you're saying, it hits before, but when you have that mindset about how this is actually about depression and he was in the middle of his depression as he was writing this,
right.
it just makes all that much more sense.
I love that you do research. I'm gonna do some research too one day. I'm not gonna tell you when though, so you gonna be shocked when it does. We'll do it.
Shocked.
Shocked, I tell you, shocked.
'Cause sometimes sometimes the rereading it doesn't help me. Sometimes I have to be like, okay, like
No, I
tell me
definitely
what
give
this
you
is
that.
about.
I definitely give you that. I
So,
give
like,
you that.
when you read, like, an analysis of something and then you go back and reread it, you're like, "Oh, I can see it all now." Like, "Oh, that's amazing."
No, I totally get it. Just like how like some people don't see stuff in reviews until they hear someone else's review, and they're like,
Yeah.
"Wow, I totally missed that." So no, it makes
Mhm.
perfect sense.
Yep. Um, Another fun thing about one of the poems in here. Actually, I think it's about two of the poems. But I learned that there was, we all know for Edgar Allan Poe, this man was just his life was full of just scandal,
Yeah.
just.
Right.
And there was another little thing that I had no idea about. So there's this one poem on here, and it says to F blank SSO blank D. So
Uh-huh.
that's actually a name. It's Francis S. Osgood.
Oh, okay.
So there was actually like during his career and her career, she's another poet. So
Okay.
they were having she's written a bunch of like almost like love poems to him, and there was a couple of poems that he had published previously in the past but then republished and like changed the title, and this one was one of them. This poem was actually titled To Elizabeth, but he changed the title of the poem and republished it for Francis Osgood. And
Okay.
um and it's a scandal because he was married at the time and so was she. And there was a scandal where it's like, okay, they were almost like exchanging like love poems to each other, and then she
Uh-huh.
became pregnant, and a whole person wrote a book about how her child was actually his, and they were both married at the time. So I actually linked that article, or it's a blog post, I should
Wow.
say.
So was
I
it really
linked
his
it.
baby? Was he the pappy? Was he
I
the
don't know.
pappy?
I don't
What?
know. Everyone said no. Some people said yes, but there was a time where she got a little bit like intense with her like attraction to him, or
Oh,
her
wow.
how she was doing. So she actually in the blog post that I read, she was actually like talking bad about another poet that was actually friends with Edgar Allan Poe, and that's what made him cut off the relationship with her. Like she was talking about another person because she was getting jealous. And I'm like,
Oh, wow.
"Oh, okay." So
Was
yeah.
really good.
Yeah. So
She was doing subtweeting back in the day. She
little
was like, I'm gonna post a
scandal.
whole article about why I don't like you. Don't mess with my man. I'll be the one to write about you. I love it. I love it.
So I did link that in the description if
I
you wanted to read
really,
the whole thing.
I do
Um,
want to read the whole thing.
the City and the Sea was originally played. Yes, that is correct.
As
I
the
did
doomed city. That makes
Doom City.
sense.
Yeah, because you did feel that. You felt the doom.
Yeah. Or nobody coming out that hole alive.
Nope, that's true. Nobody. It's like
No.
it's almost like it had like this thing like of inevitability where like no
Yeah.
matter what you did, like you're
Right.
still.
Its fate is sealed. Ain't
Yeah.
nothing changing it.
Hmm. But I also find it interesting that some of the titles like have changed of his poems, either by
Right.
him
And
republishing
I'm
or by
curious
other
of like
people.
why, like for some
Right.
of them, right? Because like and so far ain't none of them been like racist or nothing. So I've been curious of like
Right.
what is it? Like is it also like marketability for the time or were these changed like
Maybe.
after you are already dead? Like did you change these or have other people change them? I'm very curious.
Yeah, like the poem Hymn, it was originally titled Catholic Hymn, but Poe removed the Catholic part of it, so it was just titled Hymn. But there was one, I wonder if I wrote it down. I'd be so mad if I didn't. But there was one poem where he didn't change the title, someone else changed the title after he died.
Interesting.
Oh, I think it was the next poem that was after Francis S. Osgood. It just says to F, and it's
Oh,
actually meant to be to Francis, and that was a rework of to Mary. And another title of this was to one departed. So he changed. Edgar Allan Poe did change that one, but to so he could like make it to Francis, because
okay.
he was writing love poems to her too. um, let me see here. I think I do have another question, so let me
Okay.
bring that up. What poem did you find the most difficult? I think we have been talking about this, or
Okay,
what?
so for me, it was we already said Enigma, but the
Yeah.
other one was To One in Paradise.
Yep.
I just felt like they were talking about something that I did not like. I couldn't quite put my finger on what it was. Like I
hmm
understood the words that were there, but I feel like there was some subtext that I was missing.
So definitely Enigma for sure.
Okay.
And it wasn't until, again, research, that it's actually Enigma is actually, it was written as a riddle. Each line of the poem, um, is actually talking about another author. So
Okay.
I should honestly, I should have, grabbed that, link so I could link it in the description box for you as well. But yeah, so each line, and some of them are 2 lines. So, and some of these names I don't know because I'm not really, I'm not really that versed in poetry or, a lot of, authors in that time. But, like a couple that I do know. So line 2, the hand that traced inexorable rage, that's talking about Homer. So Homer, who wrote the
Okay.
Iliad and the Odyssey. I don't know how these equate to these authors, but that's just the article that I read.
Okay. Got you. Got you.
The next 2 lines, a pleasing moralist whose page refined displays the deepest knowledge of the mind. He was talking about Aristotle, which I kind of get, um,
Okay.
from those 2 lines, just because Aristotle is definitely founded a lot of, great, um, theories and things like that. So I kind of
Right.
get that. Um, and the last 2 lines, these names, when rightly read, a name known which gathers all their glories in its own. He's talking about William Shakespeare. So I'm gonna actually find that. I believe I still have it
Yeah,
up. I'm
because
gonna.
I'm curious of like so far you've named people I've all heard of these people, but I'm
Mhm.
curious if there are people that I haven't heard of.
Okay, here it is. So I'm gonna post it in the chat. Also going to put it in the description box. I knew I
Yay!
saved it for them.
Hey, you're on it.
But yeah, and I was like, okay, well, no wonder it didn't make sense. He's talking about 11 other authors. Like,
Yeah,
it's not one cohesive thing. So,
right. It makes so much sense now.
okay, so I just posted it in the chat there.
And so I guess the second part of the question, the thing I find most difficult is just like you do need to know the times,
For
like
sure.
what was going on around the time for some of them to make sense. Um,
hmm
so yeah. I think that's the most difficult. That there are meanings. That if you want to fully understand the poem, you have to dig for it to
hmm
find out.
Yeah. Mm, 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 mm. I really liked also. We didn't talk about this in the last question, but I really liked Serenade.
I
That's
thought it was pretty.
also really heavy on Greek mythology. It's bringing back, using Greek mythology as a way to compare
Right,
that, untouched nature just brings like a certain amount of peace to a person, and I completely like agree with that, because like there's just nothing more like, because I go camping, I go out in the middle of nowhere like all the time, and I
right.
there's just something about just like sitting in the middle of nowhere, and just relaxing and breathing in the fresh air, and it's so peaceful, and honestly, as I feel the presence of God more so outdoors and in nature than I would ever in a church. So,
No,
um,
completely agree with that.
yeah, and I really liked it. I really liked that one a lot.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. With you on nature for sure. I think another one that I like that we didn't talk about, but that I thought was intriguing,
Mhm.
was the conqueror word.
Oh,
Again,
yes.
imagery was just amazing in that one for sure. And I just again like I wonder like where that title came from. Like that's such a very specific thing. I want to know what inspired you to write this particular poem and name it these particular words. Like
Mhm.
I wish that there was more. It also makes me very sad for the truth about like writers. Like there is so much that you as a reader may never get to see because of publishing's belief of what sells.
Yes,
And if a
that's true.
person doesn't decide to self-publish and get it out there, like there's stories that have been written that you may never see. And
Mhm.
it just makes me very, very more aware of how I want to handle my writing.
Mhm.
Like because I'm just intrigued by this. And also because like they didn't have any kids, right? Supposedly, as far as we know.
Yeah.
So like who benefits from this?
Mhm. Yeah.
It
And
just
it's just
definitely put
like
a lot of things in perspective.
yeah, that's true. And like with when I was reading The Conqueror Worm, like obviously it's very like the imagery in that specific poem is very heavy on death. And I was just like the conqueror worm, like the worms that eat your body, like when you're dead, like that's
That's what I was thinking because, like, first of all, the way you said that was so cute. Like the worms that eat your body, like when you're dead. It was so cute. But also like it made me think of like like the slumber one we read the last time. And
oh
it's like,
yeah.
oh, she's so pretty and she's dead, and then we're talking about the worms eating her. I just like
Yes.
so it flows so well.
I think honestly, I don't like if we didn't read that one and we didn't talk about that, I don't think I would have thought like the conqueror worm being like worms eating the dead body if we didn't talk about that first. So yeah, whoever put this together, they really did a really good job of like leading you like through for
I
sure.
agree. Completely agree.
Because that's why I thought of that. I was just like, "Oh, like, well, in this one poem, they're talking about the worms eating her beautiful body, or
Right,
her." And
and if
so I
it's
was
a
like,
conqueror worm, is the thing that he's conquering is your flesh. Like he conquers you for the very last time. He's the last thing that
yeah,
gets that ability.
yeah, and it just really gives that like the arrival of death, like your death is inevitable. Like
Right.
it's unescapable. It's gonna happen, and all of our hopes and our dreams that and the things that we're chasing in life, really like they're just gonna be like you are just gonna be devoured, like, at the end of the day, like, by this conqueror worm that's eating your body as you're dead. Like, just wow. Just wow.
Right. Right. What was Edgar thinking? I must know.
He was like he definitely had a different way of thinking and explaining things and creating that imagery as we were talking about before. It was definitely, like
Right.
it makes you think, and when you, like and when you do get it, and when you realize, like, "Oh, that is what he's saying," like, wow. Like, just wow.
I completely agree. Completely agree. He has a way of like sneaking things in on you.
Yeah, yeah. And it just a lot of his poems just start off as something beautiful and how he's finding peace and how, like, he's looking at something and it reminds him of his love, and then it just turns very dark, and it's like, wow, it really
But
takes
I think
you.
it's even for us to know about like his depression and that some of these poems might have had to deal with that is very accurate for how depression comes on.
Yeah. Mhm.
Like you could have definitely been feeling normal at 7 a.m. this morning, and by 10 a.m. something is wrong.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I think that it's very realistic in that, and I'm like, it's surprising, I guess, a little bit that it would be so realistic for the time in which, it's such a mental health is such a demonized thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like you're going anything you do, you're getting considered, insane and getting shipped off to places. Like that was the time frame in which he lived in. So I think
Yeah.
it's really interesting.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah. Like, I guarantee you, the reason why a lot of his stuff wasn't well received until the publication of The Raven, like, a lot of these for the time, like, these are just things that you did not talk about
Right.
in quote unquote polite society. Like, there were just things that you didn't talk about. You didn't talk about death. You didn't talk about things like that, you know, and a lot of it say like, oh, people would be reading this and they would swoon. Like that guy who wrote a whole poem about how he didn't like Edgar Allan Poe's poem and he set
Right.
it on fire. That's
Right.
exactly it.
Yeah, because that still is like crazy to me. Like, you did what?
Yeah. Yes.
You like wrote a poem? Like, why you are burning it? And then was like, I'm gonna send this man my poem? Like, wait a second, bruh. It was
Yeah.
a lot.
It was a lot.
It was a lot.
Oh, but so I did those other the two links that I have in the description box. One was for the Enigma Riddle, which
Okay.
I have in the comments, but I also put in the description box so people who are watching on the replay, you do have access. And then if you want to go, now or later, you can definitely check that out. And the other one about Francis S. Osgood as well. So
I can't wait to dive into that and read that because that sounds fascinating.
yeah, I was like, ooh, we got a
Right?
scandal.
Like,
All
what
right.
is the tea here? How did this happen? How did this happen?
Yeah, there's a lot of this is like just one blog post that I read. Obviously, there's different like other people will think differently like, oh, like her love was requited. Edgar Allan Poe really, was writing love poems back to her and when all it went down when she started, really going after that one author, is when he called it quits, but it's just but yeah, there's different like articles and things that tell you
Right. No,
like
I'm definitely
other
curious, like what the story is. Like, does she have a biography somewhere that we could read, and it like mentions her and him? I'm just curious.
probably,
I'm curious.
but yeah, I just thought that was pretty interesting for sure.
It is.
Yeah.
I completely agree. Also, I'm totally like, of course, listening to you, but so somehow this happened to my yarn. No, it didn't split. There's like a knot where I guess either the person who did it or the machine tried to
Uh-huh.
tie it together. Maybe it wasn't enough, but it's continuously two pieces of yarn. And so
Oh,
I'm like, which one do I cut? Because I
right.
still got like this whole thing, and I'm
Oh
already
no.
irritated because I've been pulling through the middle, and this is changing my ability to pull through the middle. And I
Oh
don't like it
no.
because I don't have that crock picture everybody sent me where they put the yarn in there and they just rolled it on the. I don't have crock shit, so I can't do that yet, y'all. So I'm
Oh
just really over here trying to pull through the middle, and it's like, yo, because I already finished one panel, and I'm like, can I finish this panel today so I can have a tote bag to show y'all tomorrow? Get it
no.
together. I'm
Together.
trying.
You're like, I
Get it
can't with this
together.
defective yarn.
Right. Right.
No. Oh. Yeah, but that's crazy how it's tied in a knot and it's just continuous
Right, because then I was like,
the
"Oh, is it
strand.
split? Can I, like, tie it into each other?" Like, no, these are 2 full strands. So now I'm like, "Where do I cut it?"
Can you cut it at that knot?
But I don't know which side to keep.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
It's all bad,
Oh,
it's all
it's
bad,
it's all bad.
all bad.
All right. Well, is there any other, things that you wanna talk about or things that you made note of, either Cachet or
No,
anyone in the comments?
right. No, we got the ones that I made note of. I'm definitely intrigued to see how our last week of poetry goes. If it's been ramping up, I expect to fully only understand 1 poem this next week.
Mhm. For sure. Yep. I agree with you 100%. And oh my gosh, can you believe it? We're almost done with the poetry.
We are. We start
Almost
the Raven this
done.
week, and then is the
I
very
know.
first poem.
The first one.
Right. I'm
I
excited.
I can honestly recite the Raven like the first like 3 stanzas. Like
I can only do the what is it? Once upon a midnight dreary while I ponder weeping weary. Like that's it.
uh-huh. Yeah, we had to memorize um poetry like in my AP English class in high
Hmm.
school. And I chose The Raven, which she didn't make me recite the entire thing because it's actually pretty long. She just had me recite the first 4 stanzas, which is why I still remember it to this day. And
Nice.
then also Annabelle Lee.
I only remember that because wait, split a pop bottle, Shay, feed the wool through and tape the middle.
Split.
Okay. If I got a pop bottle, feed the wool through, so like cut it, and you're saying tape the middle. Oh, okay. I think I get what you're saying. Like put the yarn inside the bottle and make a hole, and then the yarn will come. Is that what you're saying? I don't know. Tell me. I don't know. I'm listening. I don't know, Pat. I'm trying to figure it out.
I
I'm
know
trying to figure it
exactly.
out.
I know. I was
Where,
just like,
if you have an Instagram, you can like if there's like a video of what you're talking about, you can send to me on Instagram.
yeah,
But thank you also for even giving me any kind of advice on it. I appreciate it.
because I was stuck. I don't know.
I'm still stuck, so you know. I'm gonna wait. Am I even right?
But
But
yeah,
I
I'm
only
really
know the Raven because sorry.
no. Go ahead.
I was like, I only know the beginning of the Raven because of Finding Forrester with Sean Connery. And then I know parts of Annabelle Lee only because of Holes. When they were like citing it back to each other. You know,
Uh-huh.
Holes is such a great movie. I love
I
it.
love that
Uh,
movie. I
and it's a
love that
great
movie.
book. And it's a great book.
Yeah, yeah. It's very similar too. Like
Yeah,
I
no,
don't.
they're almost exactly alike. I will say the movie is better.
The movie's better.
Yeah, I'll have to call her back. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, I think the movie is better, but just because like they get to tie the threads in visually for you and whatnot, and like you get a
Yeah,
better idea, like oh, the boys in the camp and stuff like that kind of thing. But I
yeah,
think they're both like chef's kiss. Like I think they're both really good.
yeah. I had watched that movie first, and then I had read the book,
Me
and
too.
I was just surprised of how similar it was because you know how when they take they adapted it to film, they either cut a bunch or they kind of almost changed things completely, but it was
It was almost
very
exactly the same thing,
yeah,
like for sure.
which I love when they do that.
All
So.
right, cool.
All right, everyone. Well, if no one has anything else in the comments they want to say, and we've talked about, I mean, we've been talking for 40 minutes straight about, Edgar Allan Poe, which I love.
Right.
But yeah, I'm really enjoying. I'm very excited for next week because obviously we'll get to his more famous ones, but then also we read all the poetry.
Right.
That's so
Right.
exciting. That's so
It's
exciting.
yeah, it's been a good way to celebrate a National Poetry Month for sure.
Yes, I love it.
I don't
So
think it's been a long time since I've read this many poems for this month.
yeah, yeah, I can't tell you the last time I read a poem. I
Right.
couldn't tell you.
Right. And definitely not 48 in 1 month. Like, wait a
Yeah.
minute.
Mhm. So, all right, everyone. Well, we are gonna head out. Thank you so much, Cachet. I love that we're doing this together.
Me too. Thank you for taking my host spot because my internet hates me. I appreciate you for being a real one. Picking up
Mhm.
my slack there. You're the best.
Whatever you need, if I can do it for you, I will.
You're so sweet.
Everyone, follow Cachet. Her social media links are going to be in the description box for you. And everybody, we'll see you next week. Bye.
All right. Bye.